Welcome to Uncomfortable Growth Uncut, where we celebrate those who defy fear, embrace growth, and live without regret. In a world that celebrates perfection, we rarely hear about the challenges, fears, and crossroads that successful leaders grapple with across work and life. Uncomfortable Growth Uncut shines a light on their personal story and the critical human skills we all need today to turn trials into triumph. So welcome to Uncomfortable Growth Uncut. I'm here with the amazing Amanda Broderick, who I have known, I've got to think, 20 plus years, maybe more, 25 plus, Amanda?
I'd say easily.
Easily. A long time. So we know each other from Johnson & Johnson, our past working lives.
Mm-hmm.
She's currently the head of international marketing at Energizer, looking after all the countries beyond the US and Canada. So many, many countries, and a really good friend. So someone who I don't get to see all the time, but I always love it when we catch up. So welcome to Uncomfortable Growth Uncut, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for the wonderful introduction. And I think you're right. It's funny when I was, preparing and I look back and was thinking, gosh, some of the things that we had done together at J&J, different things. I was trying to reflect when we first met each other, and you're right, it was a long, long time ago. But we need to catch up more often. That's for sure.
We do. So for a long time, we were both living in different countries, and sometimes we'd see each other at these global conferences. But now we're both actually back in Sydney, so no excuse, none
True.
of that.
And not far.
Time. And not
You're not
far.
far, so.
Exactly.
That's
So Amanda, I'm really glad you could come on the podcast today. What is the uncomfortable growth story you'd like to share?
Yeah, it was difficult for me to pick one because I think I've had many, both professionally and personally. And I think the one I'd probably share is the first opportunity that I had to move overseas. And I was in my early 20s, not long got married, and we had the opportunity to move to Singapore. And I was nervous. I was scared. I was excited, but the most uncomfortable thing was I was leaving everything I knew. Everything I knew, family, friends, living situation. Like I said, I was newly married. I didn't know if I was going to do the job successfully. So that pressure comes on you. So it couldn't be more different of changing everything at once. Normally people might say, oh, I'm going to change, where I live, or I'm going to change my job or the company. But I changed everything, and it was very uncomfortable at that time. And I'm sure it was uncomfortable for my husband as well.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's not just about you when you've got a partner or you've got kids or whatever. It's something that affects the whole family, and you know, um, it does take a lot of courage because you are literally getting on a plane with a one-way ticket.
Yeah, and not knowing what's going to happen. I think one of the interesting things as part of that journey was it was a person I had reported to before. So same company. So I had a new boss as well. And you always want to give good impressions quickly. So you put pressure on yourself. I also wanted to make sure that socially we were making friends and meeting different people. So I had a life outside of work. We weren't just there for the job, yes.
Yeah.
But it meant that, everything was uncomfortable. Putting yourself out there, meeting new people, which I don't mind meeting new people. That's fun, but it is daunting. It really is, because you start to think about, is this going to be longer term? Is this good for me, not good for the other people?
Yes.
What if something happens back home? I mean, there's so many thoughts that run through your head. And I think I learned a lot about me as an individual, as a friend, as a family member, and it forced me to do things that I hadn't done and be comfortable that the outcome may not be what I hope it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to step back, right? Because, I'm sure there's people listening who may have had or may have in the future the opportunity to work overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd love to go into a bit more detail of the different stages. So, when you were at that point where obviously there was the opportunity presented to you, and
Mm-hmm.
at this point you were still in Australia, newly married.
Yes.
So, what went through your head, or what were the emotions? What were the things that you wrestled with at that stage where you don't know what it will look like?
Yeah. I think the first thing is this weird combination of excitement and fear.
Mm, mm,
And that happening at the same time is challenging, because you don't know, should you lean into the fear or lean into the excitement.
yeah.
And so trying to balance that, I think, was one of the really difficult things for me at that early stage. I think also that, as I said, unknown of what happens if I go and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Am I going to get fired? Am I done forever? But then on the flip side,
Mm,
trying to think about, well, what can this help me in the future? So often for me, I try to think about the next step beyond the current step, or the
mm,
next two steps,
mhm.
because that for me helps see the positive opportunity that's in front of you. So even if it didn't work out,
Mhm.
well, can that help me still learn and grow professionally and personally to help me
Mm,
get to the next step, or the step beyond that? Because
yeah.
it's not always success that drives you to the next step or that next stage.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the learnings and it's that tough
Yes.
conversations and reality that you're faced with, unfortunately.
That's right. Curveballs when you're on a different continent.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah, I can really relate to that excitement and fear.
Mm,
And there are so many variables to consider. Um, like I know when I was thinking of going on my first international assignment, I don't think I've shared this much, but I had an opportunity to go to the US, which was where we went,
mhm.
but also to France. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah. So working in Paris with the Parisian J&J business. And I did a look-see for both.
Hmm.
So at least you could kind of see the office where you would be
Yeah,
working.
where, yeah.
But the thing that tipped me to the US was fear-based. And that's because in France they go into French language a lot.
Yep.
A lot.
Yes.
And so I went and I was meeting them, and for me, they were really, always polite and lovely people and speaking English. But then they'd suddenly just go straight into French, and my French
Yeah.
extends to croissant. So that's about it. And um, and I was just that just increased my fear because I was like,
Hmm.
well, how do I connect and communicate? And what if they're saying mean things about me?
Right.
This girl from
Right.
Australia, like, what does she know?
Why is she here?
Why is she here? Why wasn't this given to a local?
Mm.
And I was actually so worried about that. I'm
Hmm.
like, US English speaking. At least I feel like I can
Easy. Yeah.
navigate that. And so that's what tipped us off. But of course, on paper, I used the rationale of, oh, well, this is a bigger job or it's a different opportunity, but it wasn't that at all. It was the fear. And,
Hmm.
sometimes I look back at that and think, imagine imagine what that would have been like.
I think that it's interesting because the levels of fear that you go through,
Mm.
at some point you have to stop yourself too and say, this is
Yes.
getting ridiculous. You're overthinking, um,
Yes.
and you need to back yourself.
Yeah.
You need to believe that you have been asked to do something for a reason, even if you can't see
Yes.
that reason. There's
Yeah.
there's there's a plan. Someone has seen something
Yes.
in you that
Yes.
they want, or they want to develop, or they want you
Yes.
to use to develop other people. And I
Yes.
think, that's a good reminder, and say, yeah, fear, it is uncomfortable, it feels odd, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it also can bring energy. It can bring you inspiration. It can propel you forward.
Absolutely. And I think this is, this is the battle that we all face, whether we're open about it or not. Like, I wasn't open about why I chose the US. Inside, I knew it was because I was shit scared to go to a country where they spoke a different language.
Bonjour. And that's it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't know what they were saying. And maybe that was the right decision because, at least there was so many changes happening anyway. But it's this inner battle between, do we let fear win, or do we let the excitement and the positives and the growth opportunities and the life adventure win? And that's a battle that is constantly inside us.
I think about it a little bit as you have to have some fear. Otherwise, no one goes into life or business or professional workplace knowing how to do everything. You just don't. And so there's always a fear, whether people share that fear or not share that fear. I think for me, one of the things that I've learned and learned on that journey, and to other journeys that I then went to different places and did it a number of times again, and still scared, I still had fear, but they were different fears, right? I'd overcome the initial fears of the first move, and then you get different kinds of fears. I learned to tell myself you can only control the controllables. Right? If there's other things that you are fearing or concerned about that you can't go and have a conversation or rally people around you to help reduce that fear, then you maybe let it go, and that it's still kind of out there.
Yes.
But you don't let it take over, because it becomes or could become debilitating, and then you cannot move forward. And I think that would be awful for people to be into that state. So you need a little bit, I think.
Yeah. No, and I guess that's how we're wired. So it's still going to be there. I don't know anyone who's completely overcome their fear wiring. I think they manage it really well.
Agree.
But it's still there. And I think you're right, Amanda. It's putting it into perspective and context, because otherwise we'd all stay really small and trying to
stay comfortable,
but end up living this small life, versus what's actually out there. And to the point you were making earlier, even if it doesn't go as planned, and let's face it, nothing succeeds as planned.
Right.
You're still learning. You're still growing.
Yes.
You're still having experiences that you would never have had if you stayed in Australia. So, tell me about the conversation then you had with your husband.
Look, I've been very fortunate. He has supported me throughout all the career moves, and actually he's the one that has been pushing. He's the one that sits behind and says, what have we got to lose? Let's go do it. Let's try and explore and learn different things. So it was a easy conversation, I would say, because I had that support, and I think without that support it would have been very challenging. So he has a great balance for me in terms of pushing me when I don't want to be pushed, which I don't like, but hey. But I think that's a really good balance that I need, because I probably wouldn't have said yes to some of these things without having someone just push you a little bit, give you a little bit of confidence when you need it. And someone to support you if you fall. If it doesn't work out, okay, well, it's a joint agreement. And I got a piece of advice, and you would know this person, Mr. Max Johnston, that said to me, it's actually not your decision, Amanda. Anytime you're presented with an opportunity to move in your career or for whatever reasons, it's not your decision alone. It actually is the other person's decision, because you're the one that has some familiarity with the company or the people or the role. The other person has zero. They are starting at absolute ground zero. And it's something I've taken through with me for a long time. Every time I've had opportunities, I go to my husband and I say, we've got an opportunity. What do you think? And okay, yeah, we talk through it all together, but ultimately he's the one that has to decide, is he going to work? Is he going to stay home?
Yeah.
And I think the growth is probably quite big for him too.
Absolutely.
But it
Yeah,
looks different. It looks different.
it
So
does. It
yeah,
does. It looks different.
so I'm very lucky.
Very lucky. Well, he's a lovely guy. Well, I remember a friend of ours also moved with J&J really young, Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she went on her own. Her first assignment, she went to New Jersey on her
I
own.
know.
She spent some time in LA and then up in New Jersey. And I remember thinking just, wow, doing that all on your
Mm-hmm.
own, where you don't have that person by you who is really going through similar things at the same time. So you've got
Yes.
that very strong connection.
Yes.
But also, like you were saying, to catch you when you wobble or when
Yeah.
things don't go to plan. It's like I'm not in this on my own. I'm with my partner. But to do it on your own, like I absolutely
I
take
can't imagine.
anyone who does it all on their own. And she was really young. She was like only 25 or 26 from memory.
Mm-hmm.
She was very young. And like it's a big thing. And it is about
Yeah.
self-belief that not to say you don't have those questions or fears, but you also have to believe to the point you were making before
Yes.
that it's an opportunity. People want you there for a reason. They want to support you. They want you to succeed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they want you to have this adventure.
And
Um,
it's certainly an adventure. Even, even personally an adventure, because going into new countries, just the basics of what you do automatically are
mhm.
challenged. Setting up a
Yes,
bank account, going to the doctor for the first time, trying to
yes,
find a dentist, and navigating new systems in your life that you don't
yes.
think about, that
No,
just now you have to focus on and really think about and make choices on,
yes.
that have almost been done for you
Yeah.
in your
And for
home
the
environment.
It's so true. And the people who are over there, it's just unconscious to them.
Yes.
So I have this like really true funny story, which is when we moved up to New Jersey and we'd gone from LA, very dry, hardly any rain, up to New Jersey where there's the extreme seasons. And so we're coming into winter and suddenly
Mm-hmm.
I see there's all these like sticks in the ground and they've got little light, those reflector things on top like you put on bikes.
Oh,
A little
yeah.
reflector and they're around their driveways. And I'm thinking, oh, what's this for? Maybe this is like, I don't know, like it's a decoration thing because they're really big into decoration for the
The
seasons.
themes, yes.
Yes, I'm like, that's a decoration thing. And then it was only when we got our first snowfall that I
Oh,
realized it's to actually see where your driveway is.
oh,
And because
okay.
there were really big blocks of land, and you kind of assume you know where the driveway is, but you actually don't. And then I was like, oh, so they're actually for snow.
Well, why would you even know that, right?
But there's so many of those things.
Just
And
nuances, yeah.
and the neighbors don't think to tell you. Like they were in
Right.
hysterics when I told them. They were laughing and laughing. And I'm like, well, I didn't know. I don't come from snow country.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a decoration thing, kind of like you do every season.
I did like the themes. I liked the themes, the decorations, but
You.
you pick up those little things, right?
Yeah,
From each of your
exactly.
experiences as well, and either hang on to them
Exactly.
and or pass them on to the next people, right?
Exactly. So I feel like I'm much more prepared if I
Ready
ever
for
have
snow
to go to snow.
in Sydney.
Yeah, but there are like all those little things all the time.
All the time, and it's tiring. It can be tiring, and I
Yeah.
think when you're in that situation, often you are with people that haven't done it in the workplace,
Mm.
right? They haven't moved, they haven't
Yes.
experienced what you have. And what
Yes.
was important for me is when you have that community of people around you, you find your people, right,
Yes.
outside of work,
You
and you
do.
start to share those experiences, and
Uh-huh.
that is important, because I think that keeps you grounded, but it also gives you an outlet to share the things that are uncomfortable, to get support on things that are unfamiliar, that can make you a little bit more comfortable, and to laugh and go, am I crazy? Is this really happening?
Now I know where my driveway is. Because the snowplow guy came up and he said, oh, where's your reflectors? I don't know where to snowplow. And I went, oh, I think the driveway is like, over there, that way. He was just shaking his head. Like, oh, who's this crazy lady? But it's to laugh and to just have that camaraderie and support, that you're not alone, that these, frustrating little things that you just had no idea about. And you look back on and you're like, oh, of course. Like, I feel so stupid.
I can see why a lot of people choose not to do things like that, because it is such a big adjustment. It's such a challenging mental situation you're putting yourself and potentially other family members in. And I can see there's not many people. If you ask a lot of people, is that something you'd be willing to do? I would expect most people would say no. I think there's very few people that are willing to put themselves out in that kind of situation to learn and grow ultimately. But the reward is big if you're willing to do it.
So let's talk about the reward, because I mean, you've been multiple countries now. So there obviously is a high reward as well. So what do you see as that positive part of the equation?
I think for me, one of the biggest things is just the opportunity to learn and grow, to continue both personally growth and professionally. So you're getting exposure to situations, to environments that are putting you out of your comfort zone. And that's when we learn. Well, that's how I learn. I learn by doing that. It doesn't always mean, as I said earlier, that it's successful. You learn from bad things too, mistakes.
Yes.
We all
learn more. I think you learn
sadly,
most.
Yes. Exactly. So I think that's one big thing. The other thing for me is it opened the door to me of other opportunities. As you said, that first move, I had no idea I was going to do 4 or so other moves after that. And that was exciting. I'd also built confidence and belief in myself that I know how to do this. We know how to do this. So we did do more moves when we had children, a couple of moves, and that is challenging in itself.
Pre-kids and then post-kids.
Completely different things you learn and you have to consider, and schooling. And I mean, that's a whole nother thing to navigate, as well as living overseas, no support network, and trying to do really good at your job. So
for our listeners, can you just give an overview of the countries you've lived in, kind of, I guess, in sequence, and when you had kids?
Sure. I hope I get this right. So the first move, Sydney to Singapore, no kids. And then back to Sydney after about, I think it was just close to 2 years. That was a quick one. It was meant to be longer, but things changed in the environment I was in at work. Then I have to think about it. Then I went to the UK. So no kids, but came back with a child. So that was interesting. So my eldest was born in the UK. So came back. Then we went to the US, so Sydney to the US. That was with 2 children. So I'd had my second by then. This
was a company change, right? Like
I switched companies. So the first 2 were the same company, and then the third, Sydney to St. Louis. And I had a 3 and 6-year-old at the time. So one at school, one still at home. And we thought it's got to be easier when they're smaller. Not sure that's true, but let's see. Then we went from St. Louis to the UK. So back to a familiar place where we'd lived before, but we didn't have children then. I mean, I had a baby. He was 6 months old. So that was different as well. And then UK back to Sydney.
So you've really jumped around the globe. You've done Asia, you've done US and UK, and multiple trips back to Sydney in between as well.
Yes. Yeah. So lots of learning. Interestingly, lots of similarities too. And I don't know if that was me telling myself this is similar, therefore it was going to be okay, and I focused on different things to worry about. But I think the more you move, you build confidence. You learn how to create that community. You learn what's important and what things to not worry about. Yeah. I would even say if there's a move in the future, I'll still be scared. I'll still be very uncomfortable, even though I've done it so many times. I think it's healthy. I think it drives you to be successful, to want it to work, it motivates you. And then you get all the perks of being able to travel in holidays and see different places. I mean, that's a huge opportunity that certainly my family wouldn't have been able to do if we weren't in the places we were in. It would take you significantly longer to do that. So that's growth for them as well. As uncomfortable as it's been for them. So I'd say the last move was probably most challenging because they were older and in established schools. That was very difficult. But they soldiered on, they got through it, and I'm sure they've learned a lot from it as well.
That's right. At their 21st, when they get there, maybe they'll come out and, Mum and Dad, I complained and I fought at the time.
It's the best thing.
Looking back, it was one of the best things that, taught me so much. And and I think that's so many of those uncomfortable things are what builds self-belief.
Yes.
That you can figure it out because you don't have all the answers. You don't even know what it's going to be like.
Right.
That you can figure it out, that there are some amazing upsides and positives, like I'm sure, you all have friends around the world now.
Absolutely. And so do the children. I'm excited for them when they finish school and can go and travel and stay with all of these families that welcomed us. And I mean, they'll be lifelong friends. There's many of them that will be friends forever, and our children will be friends with their children forever. And that's one of the most magical things that comes out of this. But you don't think about that at the time.
No. Yeah. And also, I guess you've had this life adventure as a family as well. Definitely. So, and the differences are so memorable, I find. Like if I was only in the US for like 4 or 5 years, but 2 locations as well.
Yeah.
And it's so vivid in my memory because it was so different to the many years that I've spent in Australia. And it's like that intense learning phase. Yeah. But there's so much to experience and so much to appreciate, and it stays with you in your memory because it was so different.
Absolutely. It does. Even my kids, when they talk about things, random memories pop up. Remember that time we were in XYZ? Remember that time I had that ball or I wore that shirt? And you do. It's imprinted in their memories. And I love that because that starts to tell their stories, right? That's part of their stories now, and their adventures in life so far. I think that's great.
Yeah. And also just you have such exposure to diversity.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think that's one of the things I appreciate so much is just seeing how things are different. And, it's not necessarily better or worse or right or wrong or anything, but you just have this awareness that things can be so different, but can also be really valuable.
Yes, I agree. I mean, if I look at even culturally, I think a lot of people say, oh, well, US and UK speak English same. There's so many differences. I remember a story, I'll tell you quickly. I went to the UK office and I'd been in the US, and the US team emailed a document over. They'd created a pull-up banner for me with language. So there were Amanda's words, so Australian words that we would all say, of course. Yes, we know what those things translated into what the American term would be. And then they translated that into what the UK term would be. So people could understand. Funny. And it's just, there's some funny moments. You're sitting in meetings and I'm rambling on and talking and you just see everyone's face go blank.
Yes.
And you think, which word was it? Was it one word? Have you ever been like that for 20 minutes? Have you not understood anything I'm saying? Yet it's the same language. So there's moments like that do make you pause and laugh and think,
yeah.
You'd never think you'd have to explain some of these words.
Yes. Whereas when it's a completely different language or like overtly different culture, you go in assuming that it's going to be really different, and so you're aware to look for differences. But when it's similar, and even a lot of the movies we've grown up with, so Australia is such a hybrid mix of US, UK, and Australian.
Yes,
that the Brady Bunch. I know the Brady Bunch inside out because I watch it on reruns. So you have a lot in common. But there are some fundamental differences. I remember when I first landed in the US and I went into the office just to say hello to a few people because I said, I'll come in and you'll know a few familiar faces when you start in, the next day or so. And I went in and what I didn't overtly appreciate was the difference in how you project, I guess it's status.
Oh, yes.
Big difference, big difference. And so I went up to the reception and I said, oh, yes, I'm here to see such and such. And they said, oh, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Rowena. I'm going to start working in marketing. Anyway, they thought that I was one of the new graduates. And so they apparently had some graduates in on the same day, and they put me in this room and there was all these other people and we were just waiting and people were coming in to bring people in. I was still there, and then they finally came in and said, what's your name? And I said, it's Rowena Millward. I'm meant to see such and such. And they're like, you're not on my list. And I said, no, what are the people here for? Yeah. And they said, oh, they're the graduate program. I said, oh, no, I'm not on the graduate program. I'm here to take the director role.
I'm the boss.
And it was just so funny looking back because, as you tell people your title in the US and you make it very clear. There's a big stature thing, whereas Australians are very, it's not about the status. You're just a person.
Yeah. I think there's certainly other cultures that are like that as well. And that's that's their very cultural respect lines that you play as well. But
exactly,
I think what you're saying, certainly experienced some of those in the different markets.
The codes are different.
Across. Yeah.
The codes are very different.
Yes.
And when you don't know the codes, you can end up for 90 minutes.
Graduate program.
Waiting with graduates. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, it must be because I looked so young.
Take that. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, take that. So if you were giving advice to people who were thinking or considering about an international assignment, what sort of advice would you give them, particularly in the process of how they decide?
It's a great question. I think one of the biggest things you have to ask yourself is, what are you hoping to get out of it? Are you going because you want to do that job with the title, as we just talked about? Are you doing it because you want to experience a different culture? You need to be really clear on the why you're even considering it. And I think that's different for everyone. Yes, you have to think through, some of the mechanics of life and that as well. But for me, it's what's the purpose of you doing this? And does that, I think the second piece to that to me is, does that help you get to whatever the next goal is? Is that going to help you get there? Is that going to help you do something different in different roles? And are you going to get that growth, I think about it as growth, that is going to stay with you. So again, the reason might not even be a professional reason. It could be a personal reason you want to do it, to be, I don't know, closer to family, to be able to travel the world. That could be a reason. But I think you really have to find out the purpose, the reason that you would want to do it. What are you hoping to get out of
your
that?
top reason? Because because I think there's often you know, a few things that work together, such as it is a promotion or it is a great professional opportunity, but is that my number one reason? Or is it life adventure? Or is it, you know, something else to be closer to family, etc.?
And I can tell you there was many pros and cons lists every time we were thinking of a move that we then ended up dismissing, because that just puts more doubt in your mind, right? Because you tend to, I tended to focus on the cons. I'm like, gosh, they're pretty big cons. Is it worth taking the risk? But I think if you're clear on what's the goal, what are you trying to achieve out of that, the pros and cons just become, okay, a little operating list that you run through in your checklist, you run through in your head, but it shouldn't decide whether it's the right thing for you or not. That's probably the biggest thing.
That's a great advice point. And I can totally relate to it as well, because you don't know what are the upsides, and you can't even articulate them, I think, until you've done it at least once.
Agree.
Because you just don't know what you don't know.
No.
And even, you know, different assignments, some can be more exciting and higher growth and higher adventure than others.
Definitely.
I remember a mutual friend of ours, you know, ended up in an Eastern European country in COVID and found that incredibly hard. But that was partly also because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, you know,
can't control the uncontrollables.
No, can't. Definitely can't.
I think the other thing I would say is you have to be open to some road bumps. You know, how you want it to play out in your head is not going to play out that way. You can have all the hope in the world and try to, you know, direct yourself and the opportunity in that direction. But I really think that you have to be open-minded, and you have to be flexible and adaptable. And it's easy to say that when you're sitting here with your family and everything, and that person, or you're about to move to a different country. But I do think you become more relaxed, you become more open-minded, which enables you to focus on the things that matter and not keep rethinking and thinking what might, what could, what should happen. You become a little bit calmer.
Go with the flow.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's easier, if I can say that, for Australians, because that's a cultural trait of us, right?
Yes.
Oh, I'll be right. We'll be right. We'll just work it out.
Yeah.
Maybe not for everyone though.
Yeah, that's true. And the other big insight I have around moving to around the money, right? So there's always, so my experience is, if you're moving only for money, it's probably a high risk move.
Absolutely.
because
the tax guy will chase you around the world.
Exactly. The tax guy will chase you around the world. But also I figured out now that they just get you in different buckets. So even like in Singapore, where you go and it's such a low tax rate versus Australia, but rent is something astronomical.
Yeah.
And, you know, the US has different buckets, you know, and they have state versus federal taxes.
Yeah.
Don't really know. So my kind of like learning is, each country gets you. They just get you in different buckets. So if you're just going for the money,
I would agree. Yeah.
Don't put all your eggs in that basket.
I would absolutely agree.
But of course you want to be fairly remunerated.
Yes.
And that's where also, you know, pay curves help, local pay curves, and also discussions around supporting, you know, the transition, the move, and some of those things that are different.
Yeah.
But they all get you. Governments have all wised up, and they all get you.
I thought that I had a pretty good track record of knowing what to look out for. there's still something that gets you that you just you forget about or you didn't know about.
Yes.
So yeah, I think your advice, looking at local pay curves, talking to people, and doing as much research as you can, is worth the investment in time. It really is.
Yeah, it is. But but then do it because you're not just doing it for the money. That's probably one of the least important things.
Absolutely.
If you want control over money, you're like, stay local because you've got more data. But if you're going for life adventure, and you may still end up, like obviously getting paid more through your experiences,
right?
But don't think you're going to be like, oh, suddenly amazing.
Why haven't I done this sooner?
Tax.
Well, and then there's also the return, right? At some point, you have to manage your expectations on return if you plan to return wherever your home base is as well. So
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So I'd love to finish up with a few quickfire questions.
Okay,
so the first one, what are 3 things that you've learned about yourself in recent years?
A lot. I've learned a lot. I think probably the biggest one is just to back yourself. Believe that you are able to still learn, you're able to make mistakes, but I would say your experiences so far will help you get places in the future. I think there's often a belief for me that, well, I haven't done that before, therefore I'm probably not going to be successful at it. Whereas sometimes if you pause and look at what you have done, actually, these skills that I've acquired, these experiences I had, they're going to help make me successful, even if it's a new thing. So definitely, I think belief in yourself has been a big one for me.
Yep. Amazing.
Okay, 3. I think the second thing I would say is you have to have the right people around you. And so I would say, certainly from a network standpoint, it's really important. Again, family network as well as professional network, and people that you can go to, you can seek support from, advice from, vent to, right? And just have the right people around you. And I've had a few different roles where I haven't had the right people. I thought I picked the right people to have around me, and it turned out I didn't pick the right people. And so again, I'm not talking, 10, 20 people, but a group of people that you can really have open and honest conversations about, and that will give you open and honest feedback on yourself.
Yes.
Because I think that's part of growth, right? It's uncomfortable, but it's part of it. And then what's the third one? I think the third one, I said it a couple of times, I think is just control the controllables. Like, don't get hung up on things, what if, what, when, how. Just focus on what you can control and just make sure that you are prepared for that, and be open-minded for the things you're not prepared for. And acknowledge that it's okay to be uncomfortable. I think that's another one. I think discomfort often can be linked to failure. And I think that's one of those things, for me, that isn't necessarily true. And I've learned that over time. Just because you're uncomfortable doesn't equal failure, doesn't equal that you've done the wrong thing or made the wrong decisions. It's just part of the journey.
Yes, I love that. That's very wise. That clarity point around uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean failure.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
All right.
What is important to you at the moment in your life?
I think the most important thing for me right now is balance. Balancing where I'm at in my career, balancing that with my family. And, family is always evolving, right? You get to a stage, you get comfortable, and then
they grow, they
start driving, they start doing all these different, you're like, hang on, that's not meant to happen yet. So for me, there's a big focus on balance, and balance on myself, like focusing on myself. I probably haven't, apart from work, spent time doing things that I love doing for a long time. So for me, it's okay, I'm at a point in my life, I want to get back to those things. I want to make sure that I'm doing things that make me happy beyond work, beyond driving the kids around all weekend at sport.
Yeah. What's on your happy list?
So I started, well, I've tried to start playing pickleball. I've been like stalking Facebook groups and things for a while at, local centers, and I bit the bullet probably about a month ago, and my husband and I went down and we had so much fun. But again, you talk about discomfort. I was, it's new people. It was a social one. So we got split up immediately, which I thought we were going to be partners together, and then we end up having to play against each other. So that's always a bit of fun. but that's a fun thing. I think the other thing, I'd love to learn a language. I'm terrible at languages, but I try to do Duolingo, and then I get the nasty message, you haven't been here for 15 days. And I was like, oh, I know, I'm sorry. I'll try to get there. But yeah, I think they're things that make me happy. Cooking makes me happy. I love cooking, feeding people. That makes me happy too. So
yeah, lots of beautiful things just to enjoy. And I think that's it's so important that we're not so focused on kind of these, priorities on our to-do list that we forget just to take joy in the small things.
Absolutely.
The little things, which don't have to have, a specific outcome, on your list of achievements.
Right.
Just be
just do things.
The joy.
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful. Okay. Third question. And of course, it's got 3 parts.
Okay. I'll try to remember.
What is a current fear, inspiration, and challenge? So we've got fear, inspiration, and challenge.
Okay, I'll start on fear. I think the biggest fear for me right now is my eldest child driving. I know that sounds, ridiculous, but it's a big deal, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's the excitement, though, as well, of the freedom and the independence that brings, which I think is really exciting. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fear going on there. We're still in the very early stages, but that for me, and that's unknown. It's uncontrollable, right? So all those things I said that make me uncomfortable, I think they're all packaged into that one.
Yep. So I can see that.
Yeah, fear. Inspiration, was that the second one? Yes. Okay, inspiration. I mean, there's a lot of things that I find inspiring, whether that's, watching your kids with their passion. You reflect on your own childhood and your own achievements or dreams that you had. And I love spending time watching them do their things. That inspires me. I also, if I take it to the professional side, I love seeing growth, whether that's growth in myself and doing something new and thinking, quite proud of myself for that. That's I did that.
That's cool.
Or watching other people grow. I love to mentor people. I love to help develop people. And I find that really inspiring when they go on to do great things. I think I had a tiny part in that, and look at them now. That's incredible. So I find it inspiring to follow different people I've worked with too. Seeing what they're doing now, from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Seeing their stories, being inspired by what they've done. I think that's something I enjoy hearing from different people about.
That's beautiful. And then last one is challenge.
What's challenging me at the moment? I think I'm still being challenged in terms of not putting so much pressure on myself. I think that's a real challenge. I want to perform like many people. I want to perform. I want to do really well. I want to, prove to myself more than anything that I'm capable of achieving these things. And so I think that's challenging. That's a work on of not being so harsh on myself, and often reflecting and saying, look at all the amazing things that have been achieved so far. And how does that then help the journey ahead and take you to the place of, well, what's next? So I think, I think that mental challenge is tough. I think that's tough for a lot of people, particularly when, you want to be successful, you want to continue to perform in all aspects of your life, right?
Yes.
So I think that challenge is hard.
Yeah. And just giving yourself, like you said, a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Like you are amazing as is. And
well, thank you.
you are amazing as is. And it's not necessarily about more. There's still growth out there.
Yes.
But it doesn't become a positive or negative based on this same strict criteria.
I think I think the goalposts change.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
On what is growth at this part of your life.
Yes.
Versus maybe what it was 20 years ago is very different. Yeah. It's very different.
Totally
and it'll be different again in 5 or 10 years time, likely as well. So I think that's a great way to think about it, is it changes.
You change, and so
you change. Yeah. And what's important to you changes as well.
Exactly. What success, what your priorities are, what is important to you changes.
Definitely.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I've so enjoyed this podcast.
Me too.
I think there's so many people out there who'll really value your advice from your experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be part of it. I appreciate you having me on.
If you are inspired but thinking, I can't do that, then you are so wrong. Anyone can learn the art of uncomfortable growth with the help of my flagship program, Uncomfortable Growth, Own Your Reinvention. In this, you will learn to navigate your own internal contradictions to finally unlock the courage and commitment to live a deeply meaningful life by design and on your terms. Uncomfortable growth is about the struggle and joy in discovering who you are, what you truly want, and how to make it happen. If this is something you are ready for, then find out more at www.rowenamillward.com. What have you got to lose, or more importantly, gain?